What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Preeminent Producer Podcast. Today, we are going to be diving into Christian Wirght, sharing a story about some hardships that he faced, some challenges he faced in his early days of producer. You've also, in recent podcast, heard from Matt as well as Rick, and so now it's Christian's turn. So, with that being said, let's dive in and hear Christian's story.
Are you a commercial insurance producer struggling to stand out from the competition? Do you find it challenging to grow your book of business and create a fulfilling career? If so, then welcome to the Preeminent Producer Podcast. Each week, we'll be tackling important topics, sharing proven strategies and insights from successful producers that are in the trenches and have traveled the journey to becoming a preeminent producer. You'll discover what it really takes to become preeminent and build your book of business in a way that isn't being taught anywhere else. Our hosts are experts in the field and have built thriving businesses by becoming the most trusted advisor to their clients. Welcome to your journey to becoming a preeminent producer. Let's dive in.
So I started in the insurance business 30 years almost to the day. And I was right out of school. I had spent some time in Sun Valley, Idaho, skiing and bartending to pay for my lift ticket to the top of the mountain, and found myself at a point where I was getting some pressure from my parents and also from my own wallet to get real and get a real job. So I came back to Maryland and interviewed oh my gosh, all over the place. Really thought I was going to go into the banking world. And actually, I had accepted a position with a bank in North Carolina. And I was just about ready to accept it when I was at my parents' home, and my father walked in, who's not part of the agency, and said, he sits on our board and said, "We just hired so-and-so, who was a childhood friend of mine." Then I said, "Well, wait a minute, what about me?" And my father, I remember he looked at me and he said, "You want to get into insurance?" And I said, "Well, sure. I don't know. I mean, right now I'm unemployed. You spend a lot of money on my education, and I probably should do something that's more productive than what I've been doing." So anyway, long story short, I joined the agency, started at the bottom. Started back when computers were just a thing, and everything was done basically manually with paper and carbon copies and all kinds of things and fax machines. So I had to build a book of business. I was not given any hand up, simply because of who I am, and I'm the owner of the agency. My grandfather or great grandfather started it, but as I said, my father was not a part of it. So I think that actually worked against me in that when I started, they didn't want to give me any privileges that I didn't earn. And frankly, I thought that was actually, looking back on it now, it was probably a good thing. So I just buckled down and learned a lot. I remember filling up big machines worth of paper prospects. I would spend hours and hours just looking for prospects and then figuring out a path to call on them, follow up with them, ask for expiration dates, ask for opportunities. And I just started pushing through. And I had some success, although my first account I wrote was in another town. In fact, I wasn't even permitted to work in the same town. I think the powers that be thought maybe I would screw up the reputation of our firm. So I went to another town across the state border, and I wrote a little bridal shop. I was super excited about it. Came back. Within that first week, the client calls and says, "I hate to tell you this, but we have to, we're moving our insurance." So my first policy, I think I wrote it for like 3 or 4 days. Their local agent gave them grief that they would even think about moving their insurance out of town. So anyway, so I learned quickly that this business is not for the faint of heart. You can write a piece of business and there's no guarantee that you're going to keep that, even if you don't mess up. So kind of fast forwarding a little bit, I met my wife here locally. We got married and started a family. And I remember when when my son was born, just kind of the overwhelming sense of responsibility that I felt. I mean, I was obviously very happy, but I just felt like, oh my gosh, now I'm supporting him and my wife. I mean, it was enough just to support myself, and now I'm supporting my wife, and now I have a child. So, the bills started coming, fast and furious, and quite frankly, I was still rotodialing and trying to figure out how to build a book of business. Then we had our daughter in 2002, and she now is 20 couple years old. She's super sweet. She suffers from a severe learning disability, or excuse me, a learning difference, to be politically correct. But nonetheless, it's a very rare thing that she has. And at the time that she was born, we did not know, but from day one, there was always seemed to be something different. And so we spent a lot of time meeting with different physicians, driving down the road to Baltimore and DC and hospitals. And just, it was kind of overwhelming. It was overwhelming to be in the position of starting a young family, having a child that needed some additional assistance and trying to figure out what the heck was going on with her. So it was really a struggle to find the balance between work and my personal life. And people who are starting out in this business, especially young producers or salespeople, if you're feeling anything like that, just know you're not alone. It is part of life. It is um, one of those things that I look back on it and I truly believe, and this is not to be trite, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And every time I've had a situation where it's just, I felt like I'm at my wit's end, or, you know, this is just too much. Quite frankly, I've just buckled down and said I have no other options, but I'm going to push through like a bull. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to keep going, put my head down, work harder, um, and come out the other end. And right now, my daughter's in college. We never even thought she'd go to high school, but she's in college now. It's wonderful. But back in the day when she was very young, it was a strain on my marriage too, and not to mention my professional life. I remember just feeling at the end of the day, I am so drained, and then with my wife trying to work together with her to figure out a solution and what the issues were, it was daunting. And I don't know honestly how we survived, other than we decided that as a team we would do anything and everything possible for our daughter. And I remember telling my wife, even if I have to take another job and stack groceries in a grocery store, I'll do it. And I meant that. It didn't have to come to that, but believe me, when my other friends were earning incomes and buying sports cars and doing great things, I couldn't do that. I mean, I just had to stay true to myself and my wife and my children, and just keep working hard. Now, hopefully that's not too depressing, because again, coming out the end, it's quite enjoyable to look back on those days and know what we've overcome. Um, this business is incredible if you stick with it, and you're willing to learn, and you're willing to treat other people kindly, and I would say also not get too hung up on the fact that there's always a winner and always a loser, and you can't win every time. So when you win a piece of business, someone else loses it. Um, when I was younger, I competed a lot in tennis. That was my sport. And I hated to lose, like any athlete, just hated to lose. But I was quickly over it, because, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And in insurance, it happens. And you have to move on. I always would tell myself, I mean, this is just, and I still do it to this day. When I lose an account, it's the end of the world to me. It takes me probably 3 days to get over the fact that I lost a client. And then I find myself working twice as hard to replace that, or place more. And when I lost my biggest client, I know I've talked about that before, I thought I was done. And since then, I think it took me two years, maybe 3 years, I doubled that. So this business is really endless. I know we talk about it a lot, but it can provide you with financial freedom. Um, it can help you with your family and your personal life, be able to take vacations, buy things. But none of that happens without hard work. I mean, it just doesn't fall in your lap. So that's my story. I don't know, Rick, if you want to chime in on anything, but yeah, that's my reflection.
It's a great story. And one of the things I was thinking about is if you're a young producer and you're watching this, that you've heard my story, you've heard Matt's story, and now you've heard Christian's story. You may not have a story yet, but you will. Nobody gets through this life unscathed. Nobody gets through this life without facing challenges. And it's how you face those challenges that really defines you. And as you just heard from Christian, he soldiered through. I read a book some time ago called Grit, which is passionate persistence, I believe is what it was. And that's what it takes. I mean, life is not fair. Circumstances aren't fair. This business is not fair. Most businesses aren't fair. It's just business. And it keeps you. Christian kept motivated, kept moving forward, and just didn't let it defeat him.
Yeah, and I would say, Rick, it's not. I'm trying to reflect on what got me through the hard times and really pushing through financially to get to financial freedom. And I think it was really a decision that I wasn't going to give up. I mean, I was not. I had people that relied on me, my family, my little daughter who needed me more than anything. And I remember just, thinking and meditating on the fact that, it's maybe now's not my time to relax. There will be a time, but she deserves it. So I'm just going to give it my all. And I just kept pushing. I mean, there's no secret golden bullet here, no secret pill to take. But having said that, looking back on it, it was those things that I think helped me to become better than my competition. I feel like I can go up against anyone. I'm not going to win all the time, but I'm going to go up against them and I'm going to think it through before I go. I'm going to strategize before I go, and I'm going to beat them. And if you go into going after business that you're not going to succeed, then you really just shouldn't be in it. I mean, you got to have a sense of, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. I don't have a choice. I'm going to win. And when you figure out why you want a piece of business, just grab that and try to repeat it and try to repeat it and repeat it. But again, I'd never forget that, there's a winner and a loser. And, as much as I'd like to write business, I feel sorry for the people that I lose business to. And when I'm on the losing end, it really, really hurts. It hurts me deep in my core. And that's something I've never been able to push aside. I did have an underwriter who, when I lost the biggest account I ever wrote, and I lost it on a broker of record change. I was headed out of my driveway on vacation with my young family. And they told me they moved it midterm, not even at the expiration, done. Nothing we did. I think my wife told me I turned white. I wanted to vomit the whole 8-hour trip that we had. And it was just, oh my gosh, I called my underwriter who they kept it with. And he's very nice guy, but very chalantly said, well, there's winners and losers. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And I originally thought I'm going to jump to the phone at him, but I thought, that it is what it is. There's nothing more I can do about it except try to come back stronger. So when I came back from that vacation, I just I just worked harder and harder and harder. So to all my competitors, when you take a piece of business from me, just know I'm coming back twice as hard, and I'm going to replace it with better business and more business. So be that a warning.
Yeah. I think that's the attitude you have to have, Christian. It is. I mean, if you lose an account that you really like, I mean, I've lost accounts every now and then that I'm glad I lost them because I lost them before I fired them. But if you lose an account, you should be angry. You should be disappointed in yourself. You should be disappointed in everything. And you should learn from that. The worst thing in the world is to lose an account and not learn anything. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. I mean,
Yeah,
we know
no,
relationships change, but yeah, you got to be angry and you got to just double your efforts and put your head down and just replace that.
yeah. So really my why in all of what I do is, and it, again, I don't mean this tritely, it's for my family. I mean, why do I do this? I do it for them. I do it so we can have a life where we can be free and do certain things and buy things. And so, you know, all of that. And that's who I am. I feel like there's a day someday where I'll be sitting on an island, you know, feeling like I'm relaxing. I'll probably be bored. I'll probably call you guys, but that's not today. And it's not today because in reality, that's not me now. I'm just going to make it happen and keep pushing through. And I think that's a great point, Rick, is when you do happen to lose a client, take some time, and we've talked about this before, reflect on it. What happened? What did I do wrong? What could we have done better? Or did we do anything wrong? And, you know, always be aware that someone's coming after your business. That's the other thing, is it's one thing about insurance is you can't get too comfortable. But having said all that, it's a great business to be in.
Wow. So there's definitely hardships. And, you know, the thing I really like about the last 3 episodes really goes to show that we all have our own story. We all are going through our own stuff. And it is important to not give up too soon. I think far too often we give up too soon, right before reaching success. And so, guys, I just encourage you, as you continue along this journey of becoming a preeminent producer, that you take the time to really continue to stay focused on the why you're continuing to move forward, why you're continuing to press through through those hardships to the other side. And if you are interested in being coached and helped by these guys that you've been listening to, I also encourage you to check out The Preeminent Producer. Check out our coaching programs where you can get coached by these guys who have been there, done that, and continuing to do it, and continuing to grow a book of business on because they are preeminent. So there you go. See you in the next episode, guys, of The Preeminent Producer Podcast.
Thanks so much for joining us on this episode of the Preeminent Producer Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to subscribe, rate, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Preeminent Producer Podcast.